Hello, I'm Tom Sinclair, That VidBlaster Guy, and I want to welcome you to another episode of That VidBlaster Guy. I think we're up to episode number 20. I've lost track. It's been a lot of fun, though. The basic premise of the show is using VidBlaster software that one guy with one PC can do one awesome broadcast. Now, I'm still working on that awesome broadcast part and making incremental improvements in many thanks to you listeners that have sent me tips and suggestions of ways to improve the show, and boy, I really appreciate that. Generally, our shows are broken down into one of three categories. Either we're talking about sports broadcasting or talk show broadcasting or church service broadcasting. And today we're going to veer from that a little bit. The big highlight of today's show, or it may be a low light, it all depends, is going to be a studio tour. So I've got a second camera hooked up here, and I've got a wireless lapel mic that I'll turn on, and we'll go. Not that the studio is that big that it takes a long time to go around it, but there are just some nooks and crannies, and I want to take you into the nooks and crannies and show you the different kinds of things that are going on here. If you're watching us live, we encourage you to log into the chat room and chat, and you can ask questions, especially as we go through the tour. You can ask questions about, what was that thing you just showed us? And I'd be happy to go back and show a close-up of whatever it is and explain where it came from and how much it cost and why it didn't work or why it does work, whatever the case may be. I've also prepared a demo. I guess you could call it, it's either a demo or a tutorial, not really sure. But basically a tutorial of how to do a split screen, sort of a customized split screen, so you and a guest can be on the screen, and we'll have that up in just a minute. A couple of news items I want to mention. If you haven't noticed already, that VidBlaster 2.27 is the new official release for VidBlaster. I mean, it's been out for a while, but it's just recently become the official release. And from what I understand, there's already a 2.28. And Mike Versteeg, the developer of VidBlaster, has gone off, not gone off, he has taken a different track with this beta 2.28 in that it's a private beta. And there have been a select group of volunteers that are working with this. The subject of the beta is to optimize VidBlaster for HD. Now, I'm not a techie. I'm a pseudo-techie or a wannabe techie, and so my understanding of this is not real great. But from what I understand, that Mike is basically rewriting the code on VidBlaster so that it makes better utilization of the multiple cores found in i7 processors. So instead of maxing out one core and have two other cores being asleep, he's spreading the wealth around. It's a good old American phrase we like these days. And rewriting VidBlaster to take advantage of the power in the CPUs. And my understanding is that he's doing that for one or more of the recorder modules so that they don't get involved in overflows and underflows, which affects the audio quality. So that's good news, and we'll report back more on that as time goes on. Other news about VidBlaster and Windows 8. There are some folks that have had some difficulty with Windows 8, or in VidBlaster, because there's a disconnect, some sort of difference between Windows 8 and Windows 7. From what I can tell in my reading, it has to do with Windows 8 and recognizing certain drivers, generally audio drivers, and that there have been some issues with the VidBlaster audio module not showing up all the available audio resources, all the available audio devices. I've talked to two folks that have had that happen, and I've heard from others that have had the same thing happen. And just happened to notice today a post by Andrew Zarian, who had actually, I think if this is the same problem, had suffered through the problem and solved it by reformatting his hard drive and reinstalling Windows 8, and for him that fixed the problem. So if you've got a fresh install of Windows 8 and you want to give it another try, and again, he used the word reformat, so I think this is all the way down to the hard drive level, not just a matter of updating an operating system or reinstalling the operating system, but actually wiping the drive and starting afresh. And, that's not a bad idea. Sometimes we can build on less than solid foundation. If we're building on Windows 7, which was upgraded from Vista, which might have been upgraded from XP, and suddenly you've got all sorts of junk hanging around that is not really helpful. In fact, some of it might actually be hurting things, or at the very least, slowing things down. And the last thing we want is to slow down our streaming PCs. Let's see, where are we going to go next? I think I would like to show you the video I made a little while ago, kind of a tutorial on the split screen 2-guest PIP, and we'll do that, and then we'll head off on a tour of the studio. So get your questions ready for the studio tour, and let me cue up this video here, and we'll take a look. Sit tight. Hi, I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster guy. Got another really interesting tutorial for you, I think. How to take two different images, maybe two different cameras, and place them side by side on the screen so that you can have a customized show vid. And we're starting with the default profile here in VidBlaster. We're incidentally running version 2.27, which is the latest beta. And we are going to make the screen a little bit larger. In fact, we're going to change the resolution to 864 by 480. That's the resolution that I typically use when I'm streaming my show, That VidBlaster Guy, which, by the way, comes in live on Tuesdays, 3 o'clock Eastern and 8 o'clock UK. We hope you'll join us for that. Now, we've got that there, and we're going to start with adding a module. It'll be a video effect module, and we'll just pull that over here where we can see it, and it'll be a picture-in-picture module, and we'll use the source of it, a graphic that I developed. Now, let's say that we want to end up with something that looks like, whoops, wrong screen, sorry about that, something that looks like this. Well, that's not the one I wanted either. Let's try one more time. Here we go. There we go. That was a show a couple of weeks ago where Ken Fisbeck from Spur Radio was my guest. And we pulled him in on Skype and did a screen capture for him. And so we were sort of live side by side there. Let's pull that out to the side. And what I would do is use a graphic that looks like this. And so it's just a graphic image in the background, and then 2 white blocks, and then his name and my name. Pretty simple stuff. And of course you can modify it every week, and you can pick any background you want. The purple's a little busy. I may change that to something that's more black and orangish, which kind of is our theme colors. Anyway, so we would have that graphic, and let's see, we're going to put that graphic in a player. So let's open the player, and we'll navigate to my Dropbox, to my graphics, and I think that was that the nope, that's the wrong one. Let's try one more time. There we go. That's the one we were looking for. So that's the image that we want to fill in the box, and we'll use that in our video effect module, and I'm going to bring that up to the screen for a second. So we'll select player 2, which will be our graphic, and now you see we have our picture-in-picture. And I'm going to use camera 1 as the source for the picture-in-picture. That'll be me. Yay! And I'm going to drag that and make it bigger, maybe a little too big, but I'm going to crop it back. Yeah, that's about right. And let's crop it a little bit right, a little bit left, and see if that fits in. Still a little big, but I think I can take a little bit more off the right side. So let's take a little nibble off there. Kind of takes a deft hand. There we go. And now I want to set up the second one. So I'm going to add another video effect module. Video effect. And drag it over here to the right so that we can see it. And set it up as a PIP, picture-in-picture, fixed aspect ratio. Now the source of that is going to be my first video effect module. video effect 1. So we'll bring that up to the screen where everybody can see. There we go. Now I'm on the left. We've got our PIP on the right. And let's put something in there. So we're going to add a camera module. And I've got a camera set up here. I think it's this one. Let's see. Oh, that one's about ready to power off. So let's do something with it so it won't. There we go. Camera 2. So we'll make camera 2 our other source. And again, I'm going to drag this and make it bigger. And then I'm going to crop it down the way I need it. A little bit from the right. A little bit from the left. Hey, that's not bad for the first try. Sometimes it takes a little time to get it right. And I think it probably would be easier if I didn't have these little white boxes in here. You can play around with it and see how you would like to get it. There we go. So now I've got 2 guests or 2 folks side by side. Now you can do this with 3, you can do it with 4, you can do it with as many as your PC will allow, or as many as your VidBlaster program will allow you to do in terms of number of modules. In the past I've done these where I've got 1, let's go back to a big shot here. You don't need to see 2 of me. Where I've got 1 module, maybe this size, let's see, from here to there, and then on this side I would have 3 more, and say we were doing a football game or a soccer match or something like that, we'd have the main action in the big screen, and then we'd have these 3 little PIPs on the side that would be the other cameras, whatever they were doing. They were focused on the referees or on the coaches or the players or a close-up of some action, or maybe even the instant replay. And so we can switch cameras and folks can have every single camera angle available to them. Anyway, it's fun to play with. If you come up with some great ideas on it, I'd love to hear about them. Send them to me, Tom at thatvidblasterguy.com. And if you've got a clip of a show and you want to send it or put it in a Dropbox or upload it to YouTube where we can take a look, that would be great. And hey, maybe even have you on as a guest on the show if you're interested. We'd love to have you. I'm Tom Sinclair, that VidBlaster Guy. I hope you'll tune in to us on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock United Kingdom time for the live viewing of this show, and you can always catch us later on YouTube. So long. All right, and we're back. And let me get the audio there, and let's see. Interesting note in the chat room, a different way to do this is to use a source overlay for the background. That way you don't have to spend time positioning the PIP so exactly. Well, I'll have to try that, Jan. That sounds like a great idea. Great idea. One of the things that I love about VidBlaster is that it's got, even though it's very simple to use at first blush, it has the ability to take those simple little building blocks and build all sorts of things with them by combining the power of one module with the power of another module and creating things that are better than the 2 modules separately. And that the video effect module has the ability to do that because it has so many different things going on inside of it. And I look forward to all the improvements that are going to come in the future on that. Let's see. Today's the big show today is the studio tour, and so here are the here are the rules for the studio tour. You can't make fun of how messy my studio is. That's the thing. It's just I had hoped to get it straightened, but just as I said in the pre-show, if a cluttered studio is the sign of a cluttered mind, what is an empty studio the sign of? Yeah. So I've got a wireless mic that I'm going to switch over to and get that fired up because I'm going to be moving around a little bit and out of the range of this mic. And let me get that fired up here. Oops, that's some bad feedback. We want to get rid of that if we can. Let's try again. And so now I'm on the wireless mic. How is the audio there? Audio okay? I've got the overhead mic out completely. And let's see if I can go with these headsets. A little tinny. Yeah, I agree. It is a little tinny. That's why I stopped using this, frankly, because I never could get the sound out of it that I wanted. You read me clearly. Well, clearly is what we need. Okay. What I thought I'd start with, let me switch over to the other cam here. Let's get that graphic off the screen. What I'd like to do is to show you guys some stuff, and I may be out of sight of the chat, and so I'll pop back over to chat and see if you've got any questions on that, and then I'll go back and pick up where we left off. Let's start out with the work surface, and let me get back far enough where we can get a little shot of everything here. And go on back and try to hold that as still as I possibly can. What you can see there on the left is my Behringer X1204 USB mixer, which I've been using for, maybe a month now. Still learning about it. If I had it to do all over again, I'd probably buy it. I think it doesn't give me quite the volume that I would like. For example, in my overhead mic, I've got the gain all the way up, and I resist that because I've still have a little bit of a background noise problem in here. Anyway, so we got the Behringer mixer on the left. Let's zoom down in on that a little bit. And today I'm using 4 of the channels. Channel number 3, this one right here, is the wireless mic, and that's connected to a Audio-Technica ATW T201 wireless, which is way over there. They said put it at least 6 or 8 feet away from where you're going to be. Otherwise the signal would be too great. And that's connected to a Shure 84A lapel mic that I bought off of eBay a couple years ago for $6. So maybe that's why it sounds tinny. The second channel that I'm using, channel number 4, is the overhead mic. And that's just a regular XLR connection coming into this $69 jobby, whatever you call that telescope, that boom arm. Don't have any kind of hanging for the mic. It's basically just clipped into a conventional mic clip. And the mic itself is a Sony ECM NV1, which basically was let's see if we can pull off that for a sec. Basically, it's a shotgun mic that was intended to be mounted on a Sony PD150 video camera. And I bought the cam several years ago. It had a broken tape drive, but it had good glass. And so I used the cam quite a bit and didn't use the mic until I got here in the studio and I realized, hey, this would probably do pretty well. Well, it does okay. And when I get a few more nickels, I'll probably get Mike Phillips to help me choose a good replacement. But for now, it seems to do okay. You notice nestled behind that is the Logitech C920 video cam, and it does a great job, especially as long as I remember to take off the autofocus before I start a show. Otherwise, it tends to focus in and out a little bit. And let's see if we've got any questions here so far. USB, yes, the mixer is USB. Let's go back to the mixer here for just a second because there's some interesting aspects to that. Channel 5 is the channel that I was not able to have when I had my old Alesis mixer. And basically this is the channel that allows me to control the volume of the players in VidBlaster. So I now have control over the player volume in VidBlaster, and as you can see next to it, I've got the control over the Skype volume as well. And the way that works is number 5 left mono. This one connects to the back of my, does that one connect to the PC? Yeah, I've got so many different things going here. I'm never really sure. Yes, that goes to the back of the PC. And that goes to the line in on the back of the PC. No, that wouldn't be right. That would go to a speaker port on the back of the PC. Sorry about that. Had a little senior moment there. You know, it's funny. Once you get these things all hooked up and working, it's kind of like just forget about it and then hope you don't have to reconfigure it again. At least that's been my experience so far. On the Skype channel is coming in from a Behringer USB device. And this basically has allowed me, this is a UCA 222, and it's allowed me to have a second sound card in my PC. This Behringer hooks up to the PC by USB, as does the Behringer mixer. And so when I go to my audio devices, I've got essentially 2 Behringers to choose from. One is the mixer, and one is the sound card. The sound card takes my Skype and allows me to send and receive Skype through that separate channel. I've also got a ground loop isolator on here because I was having problems with a little buzz on the Skype channel. So Mike Phillips counseled me to put one of those in. The other circuits here, this is just headphone jack, so I'm listening to you guys through this. And then this last one right here, see if we can see it, is the auxiliary send. And that's what allows me to do the mix minus and essentially choose which of these signals gets sent by selecting a position on this row on the mixer. So all of these are the ability to send volume to that aux 1 port. And as you can see right now, the overhead mic and the VB players are the only 2 that are selected. So when I have a Skype guest, he can hear me and he can hear whatever sound VidBlaster is generating. But he doesn't hear himself, so we reduce the chances of feedback. I've got another aux row here that I would use if I had a second Skype caller, or not sure what the other possibilities are. And frankly, still learning the mixer. It's like any other piece of equipment. You kind of get a basic setup, and then you begin to expand and explore and see what's better than what you've done and what's not as good. Let's see, take a look at the chat here. You can see my screen, and there's my chat along with my Flash Media Live encoder. A little bit of a name problem here. Okay, Tom, are you using this all on one computer? Yes, Richard, that is the basic premise, that we do everything on one PC. We do Skype. Everything's happening on one PC. In fact, yeah, I think we're through with the mixer. Any questions on the mixer before I move on? We can come back to it for sure. This has been an interesting experience to have a new mixer. Oh, you like my note there? Press record. Yeah, I think that's born of experience. Okay, now we're going to go from the desktop under the desk. And that, yes, that is a moving blanket. Here in the U.S., when you move from one place to another, you wrap all your furniture in these big old padded blankets. Don't know what you guys do overseas. And that moving blanket is covering up a PC. And there's a moving blanket on the left of it, moving blanket on the right of it, foam stacked above it, and another moving blanket behind it. And this is a Silverstone case, i7 2600K processor, 128 gig solid state drive, terabyte backup scratch drive. It's a form factor. I think they call it a mini ATX form factor. Even installed a handle on the top so that I can haul it out to different places, but frankly I found out it was still too big, and so I started building smaller ones. And believe it or not, I haven't had any heat problems yet. I guess, you know, it's one of those things. I've got 3 fans installed in that guy, which probably is why it's so noisy. And so I covered it up with blankets to cut down on the fan noise, which probably increases the heat, but it has 3 fans, so it's not a problem. Anyway, so that is that's the PC. And if you want more info on the PC, I can give it to you later. Let's see. Let me get cables unhooked here and see if I can unplug one of these cables. Might be a little bit more mobile. Okay. Let's see. Is it factory made or did you build it? Well, you know, Intermedia is one of those things. Somebody else obviously engineered all the piece parts, and all I did was assemble it. You know, I'd like to believe I was a PC builder, but I'm just. It's like having a box of Legos, and you put all the Legos together, and it works most of the time. Keyboard is going to be replaced by a quieter one when I can find a quieter one that suits me. And I've actually got some felt that I want to coat this desktop with in hopes that I can get rid of some of this acoustical material. And yes, that is a glass of lemonade on the edge of the table, right next to all this equipment. Let's see. Let's go to the other side for just a second, and bear with me, because I'm going to have to, hold on, let me just switch back, because we're going to have to make a major adjustment with the cables and cameras, and it's going to jerk you all over the place. So 1 second here. I wish I could say I was Andrew Zarian or Vance Willis and had everything, all the cables labeled and strapped and all that kind of thing, but not the case. I'm a kind of a what you see is what you get guy. Capture card right now, we're using the Osprey 450E, the old version of the what is now the 460. And the camera that I'm using to go around the studio on is a Canon Vixia HF, sorry about that, HF 100. And we're going to drop the earphones and move around to the back a little bit. And I want to show you the lighting that we've got. Starting at the ceiling, that pole device is something that I picked up at the local paint store, and it's used to put a temporary wall in if you were spray painting a house, spray painting the walls, and wanted to section off a part of the house. You would have a bunch of those. It's called, I think it's called a zip pole or a quick wall. That's what it is, or zip wall, one of the two. They were pretty expensive. Got a pair of them for I think $80, but it's spring-loaded, and it's great because everything fits on it. And you can see there are 3 lights hanging there, those little silver kind, with CFLs in them. The CFLs are 23 watts. The middle one pointed sort of right at me when I'm seated at the desk, and the other 2 pointed back at the green screen. If I can get back far enough here. Hang on a second. So you can see the lights over to the right, the green screen in the middle, and there is my backlight. That was a really helpful addition to sort of help separate me from the green screen. And then, don't pay attention to that glory hole there in the corner with mixers and PCs and cables and all sorts of stuff that just gets thrown out of the way. Let's see if I can get this cable around. On the other side, again, a row of 3 lights with the zip wall, and those are Mike Phillips' suggestions of hanging some of those blankets on the wall to absorb some of the noise. I don't know if you can see there in the green screen, there's a blanket actually behind the green screen to try to absorb some of the noise. And then on the other side of the lights here is another blanket to absorb some of the noise. I had to promise my wife I would fix all those holes if we ever moved. Okay, now behind the desk, you can see blankets around the PC itself. Here's just a little workstation with a couple of PCs set up. There's the component graveyard I want to go by in just a minute, but you can see again more hanging blankets, trying to help cut down on some of the noise. Oh, there's an old mixer. Keeping it till I'm not sure, just to make sure that it will, my new mixer will do what I need it to do before I put it on eBay. And then all those little knickknacks and boxes and halfway done projects, laptops to rebuild, and then one more light. That light, the hopes for that light was it would take some of the shadow off of my face, as the shadows seem to be created from the front. So let's come back, and I want to check in with you guys and see if you've got any questions about what we've seen so far. And we'll come back to that shot. So let's see, capture card, yep. Not the world's greatest. Yes, I would agree on that, which is why I'm no longer using a wireless setup. Trying to get a mic just out of reach that will do that. And frankly trying to avoid a mic that's hanging out here in the way. I've seen so many different podcasts, video podcasts, and radio talk shows, radio shows that have video edit, and the mics are just hanging all over the place. And I know it makes great audio, but I'd like to make acceptable audio and not have mics hanging all over. Okay, well, with no questions, let's move on to the component graveyard, and this ought to be kind of interesting and fun. Let's see if we can activate this camera again. It was when you were moving around, it was picking up interference. Yes, I could hear that. Yeah, audio is not important unless you don't have it. It's kind of like air. Air is not something that we think about until we're 15 feet underwater, and then we have to have it. Sorry about that. I'm moving cords around. So let's see if we can get all around here and get over to the component graveyard. Aha, all those things, all those cards that had such great promise. Probably the first one was this little baby. And that was from a company called AdLink. And AdLink makes surveillance camera equipment. And this was a surveillance, 4-port surveillance card. And in the specs that it said that it did standard resolution, 640 by 480 at 30 frames a second on 4 different ports. Well, I guess there's a difference between video like you and I want and video that we would use in surveillance, because in surveillance I think they're really interested in a bunch of still images that are all hooked together, and that's what we ended up with, was really choppy video. And so that card was about $180, and it went into the component graveyard. Then, not knowing that surveillance cards probably weren't going to work very well, we got a GeoVision 4-port capture card, again intended for surveillance. And this one, as you can see, is a PCI. The last one, the AdLink, was a PCIe. And the GeoVision, I don't know that I ever got it to work one time. Got it off of eBay, I think it was $40. And by the way, all of this stuff is for sale. The next one, I don't know how to pronounce it. Let's see, WINNOV. And this is supposed to be a video capture card. And again, it's a PCIe format. And I could not get this card to work. Just couldn't get it to work. I think it was $150 I paid for it. They said it was a $1,500 card. Maybe the folks that I bought it from couldn't get it to work either, and that's why they sold it for $150. Now we're moving into cards that almost worked. This is a VC440E. And for a while, I thought this was going to be the answer. It's about $250. Webcam 123 was the name of the company. Has what looks like a VGA port on one end, and then this VGA attaches to it, and it has the ability to pick up 4 channels of video and 4 channels of audio. And the card does okay at 640 by 480 using 2 cameras, but when you load it with 4 cameras, I just got a lot of freezing and other things. May not have been the card's fault, may have been the PC. Maybe I ought to pop it back into a more powerful PC now and check it again. But those were cards that I have tried over the years to make work. A card that I'm still working with that you may recognize. Oops, there we go. Is the Blackmagic Intensity Pro, which will take HDMI in and send HDMI out, but not simultaneously. And also has the ability to take component in and composite in. I thought it had S-video, but I guess that's a different one. And apparently this little card is a little picky about what motherboard it gets used on. And so it is not currently compatible with the motherboard that I'm running. So I'm holding it back, waiting for another excuse to use a different motherboard. And maybe we can put it back in action. Next to that is, and we're getting more and more expensive, this is an Osprey 450E. And it has 4 BNCs. This is standard definition up to 864 by 480, which is what we're running right now. This one is actually brand new, just cut it out of the pack a few minutes ago. Picked it up off of eBay about 3 weeks ago for $600. The fellow was selling them for, no, the guy got it for $500. He was selling them for $600, but I made him an offer he couldn't refuse, or apparently he couldn't refuse, and so he sold it. And that will probably go into the next prototype that I build. Nice to have things like that on hand when you need them. So that's a work in progress. And the last work in progress is this Haberman video capture HD digital video recorder. And that is currently installed in the machine that we're using today and currently not working correctly. It's got a little glitch in its video, and I'm working with the folks at Haberman to figure out if I've got a bad card or if I'm just not using it properly. Which operator error is probably 50% of the problems. At least it has been with me. Getting it dialed in sometimes is always the most difficult. All right, I'm going to walk back over here to the desk. I need to plug this cam in to some power for a minute and keep it from going out altogether. And while it charges a little, I'll come back to you guys here. And let's see what questions you might have. We're going to go back up the screen a little bit and see. According to mic audio is not important. Okay, we got that one. Martin, thanks for verifying my bad ears. Got that. Tom, I think you need to improve your sales pitch. Well, some of this stuff just didn't work, guys. You just have to, I mean, going back to my opening comments, it really has been a treat to deal with so many people that are, you know, what is that old saying? It's amazing what can get done when it doesn't matter who gets the credit. And I've really gotten that feeling of a community of folks that are interested in all taking a little piece and pushing forward, and together as a whole that we can move a giant mountain. And this new industry of internet broadcasting is, number one, it's a lot of fun, and number two, it's full of potential. All of the things that we were promised with PCs 20 and 30 years ago are, finally really beginning to come true. And I'm so impressed by so many of you and other colleagues that are so open to sharing information, sharing successes, and sharing failures. You know, the sharing the failure part, that's the part that keeps us humble, and that's the part that keeps us learning, because we really do learn from our failures. I think we swell up with our successes, but we learn from our failures. All right, let's see. What about Black Magic Card? Ever tried one? Yes, I've tried it. Still trying to get it to work consistently. And actually had it using a great Gigabyte motherboard, and then one day the Gigabyte motherboard died, and when I replaced it with a different motherboard, the card didn't work. An interesting thing about these cards, I was trying to develop a PC based on the mini ATX format. And that's the media center format, little teeny cards about 9.5 inches square. Don't know what that is in metric, guys. Sorry. And in fact, I've got one over there. I'll bring over in just a second. And my hope was that I could use that. It only had one expansion slot. I was hoping I could use that to create a portable PC that would stream in high definition. And what I found out after lots of trial and error is that the Blackmagic card requires that the PC have a separate video card installed. So you can't use the onboard video if you're using a Blackmagic card. So that means that anything I try in the future has to have at least 2 expansion slots, one for a video card and one for a Blackmagic card. Now there are some mini ITX formats that do include two slots, I'm assuming, for a dual-headed graphic card, and so that would work great to have a small graphic card and the small Blackmagic card in there. We'll have to see. And it's kind of interesting, I think, because there's so much activity in this market now with new cards being introduced by companies that we've never heard of. Is it Yaun, Y-A-U-N, out of China, that's introduced that 4-port capture card based on the HDMI format. So essentially you have a card with 4 HDMI ports on the back of it. At one point I was going to import one, and then I was a little scared off by the fact that nobody could tell me what the duty would be on that card if I were to import it to the United States. And so I would want to have a look-see at that a little bit more. So we'll see. Nothing from, is it Hopage? Sorry, John, I don't know how to pronounce that. But no, nothing. You know, and frankly, in my searches for cards, I was searching not so much on specs, but on price. I was trying to find that magic card for, you know, $100 or $200 or $250 or $400 or whatever, and my price range kept bumping up. Now I do know that Hoge, okay, that works for me, or Hop Hoge. Anyway, sorry, can't do that. I know that Amnon Nissan had some success with a Blue Cherry card. I think it was the TW100 that retails for, you know, $100-$150. Again, standard definition only. So I think I'll probably, when I can scrape together a few more nickels, give one of those a try in my search for the holy grail of 4-port capture cards, as I say it. All right, let's see what other questions. Looks like Martin is here. Hello, Martin. Tom, now you are much better positioned in the frame, higher and not in the middle. That must have been a few minutes ago. Fusion Plus TV joined the channel. Welcome, glad to have you. Okay, Martin K says Mike is mainly using one of those 4-port cards. Yeah, I don't know which one they have. Jan has come out with 1-port and 2-port cards. That's from Jan. Good. You know, funny that I have a friend who was a missionary in China, and I asked him about, you know, doing business in China, and had he ever heard of this company called Yuan, and he said, you know, it's really funny because that's the name of the Chinese currency, is Y-U-A-N. That's what they call it. And also interesting in doing business with China, which I was clueless about, is that Chinese typically don't offer credit. Everything is cash. And that explains to me why I was having some difficulty trying to make a deal with the folks in China, because I was asking for credit and they just, you know, they wouldn't hear of it. It was a non-negotiable on them. And now that I find out that it's part of the culture, well, then I can understand it a little bit better. But it must be difficult to deal in an economy where you can't use credit to spread the price of a purchase out over time. Interesting. I don't mind an SD card that's not pricey. Yeah, me too. John says, love the capture card I had from them. Worked under XP, but not under Windows 7. Oh, I'm sorry to see that. And so good to see my summary. Well, that's the summary. That's the component graveyard, at least so far as 4-port capture cards go. We can go a little bit more to the odd things that are now in the component graveyard. And I don't know that they're component graveyard things. so much as things that are just resting, waiting for an opportunity to go to use. Richard, I appreciate your comment about the AV media card. I understand too that they're very CPU intensive, and one of my experiments with them was to try to put 2 of them into a PC because my good friend Jim Moline was able to, if you haven't seen the show that we did with him, I think it was 3 weeks ago, on church broadcasting, he's got a PC where he's got 2 of those AVer media cards in it, and each card is supporting 2 cameras at standard definition. So essentially for 2 slots, he's got the equivalent of 4 standard definition capture cards. Now I think the way that they are actually wired, 2 of them come in as composite, or the little yellow plug, and 2 of them come in as component, which I thought was really interesting. But both of them come in as standard definition. So basically 2 per card, 1 composite, 1 component. And then he's got 2 cards running. And I'll be interested to hear from him what his CPU usage is when he's streaming and recording. And from my perspective, you know, as a talk show, you know, you can pretty well get away with just the 1 cam. The Logitech C920 is what I'm using. But if I wanted to do any more than that, it wouldn't hurt to have a capture card. But I can't imagine I would ever need a 4-port capture card here in a small studio like this. But you never know. I'd like to expand, to push back the fence a little bit and see what was there. Well, let's take a look-see at some other things that are still. Let's see, the i7 3700K is the best choice for the AV-ER media card. That's from Richard in the chat room. Okay, we'll put this in the show notes because that's a good choice. I mean, a good selection. I mean, a good comment, Richard. Appreciate that a great deal. All right, if you guys are game, we'll fire up the other cam here and take you into some of the more lesser used items. I'd say lesser used, maybe like less like never. But nevertheless, they may give you some thoughts of some things that might work for you in the future. So let me get a cam with the cable, and we'll switch over to that cam. And let's see if we can come back over here to our shelf of goodies. Shelf of goodies. This is something that I got for sports broadcasting. That is a LANC, L-A-N-C, that basically allows me to attach it to a Canon or Sony camera, and I can control the zoom and the record button from a control that can be attached to the handle on a tripod. So I have the ability then to do what the networks do, is control my cameras on a tripod. This was, I think this was retail $190. I picked it up for about $50 on eBay. It's in the package, never been opened. If you're interested in it, make me an offer for sure. Let's see what other good stuff I've got up here. You can't have too many small tripods. It's amazing when you're in a situation, or I'm in a situation, I need to pop a camera down someplace really quickly, and there's where I can do it. This is something that I can't wait to experiment with when I get my Blackmagic card working. Basically, it allows me to take Cat5 cable and put my camera 300 or 400 feet away from my PC and run it all through Cat5. So it basically is, see if we can zoom in close enough to see. No, that's too close. It's Cat5 in one side and component out the other side. You put one of these on each end. They were about $50 for the pair. Generally they'll sell for much more than that, but I got a deal on eBay. This is the item I was showing you a minute ago, which is a USB sound card, and very handy to have. They're about $100 full price. I picked up this one about $40 off of eBay. And it's made by Behringer. It's a UCA 222, although I think it's got another version, which is the same but without the software, UCA 202. And really pretty nifty card. Acts like a second sound card with stereo in, stereo out. All sorts of other goodies there, none of which is really very interesting. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Otherwise, we're going to get into the depths of little things. Let's take a look over here. This is a mini ITX form factor PC that we were talking about a few minutes ago. And it is equipped, whoops, it's also plugged in. So maybe we better not pick it up. Oh, hang on a second. And I think I'm losing this camera. Anyway, let's see if we can look in behind it a little bit. And you can see it's got an Osprey 450E in the back of it. It's a neat little case. It has no fans at all. Has all sorts of vent holes on it. I've equipped it with a handle so we can get in and out of where we're going pretty quickly. And I'm about to build another one in silver for a client and stuff it full of RAM and the best CPU we can find. We're about to lose this camera, so I'm going to switch back over here and be able to see what you guys are saying. Okay. And I think I'm also going to switch over to the overhead mic and get rid of this lapel guy. That is the studio tour, for what it's worth. You know, it's kind of like seeing behind the scenes in Disneyland. It's always a disappointment to me to see behind the scenes. Overhead mic is a, excuse me just a second, I got cables hooked up all over the place here. Let's see if I can get these unhooked. There we go. The overhead mic is a Sony ECW NV1. It is a shotgun mic that came with a Sony PD150 video camera that I purchased several years ago and didn't even realize I had the shotgun mic there. And I was talking with Mike Phillips one day and asking him how they did some of the stuff in Amnon Nissan's studio at Nissan Communications. And he said, well, all they do is use shotgun mics. So I pulled this one out and have been experimenting with it. Since I already had it, didn't have to pay for it. I mean, boy, you know, you can't beat free. But I do know that with a PC sitting right down there with 3 fans in it, that I'm getting a lot of ambient noise. And this tends to, I think, you know, maybe you guys can't hear it, but I hear a lot of ambient noise there. And as a result, sometimes I end up turning my audio down. Turning my audio down lower than I should because the ambient noise offends me and I'm afraid it's offending you. So that's a Sony ECM NV1. I found those periodically on eBay. I was just curious because I thought at one point I was going to try to sell it. But they were selling for, you know, $100, $150. But there's I think it's an Audio-Technica that Mike Phillips was talking about that's in the $200 range that I may take a look at. A compressor limiter gate can help this problem. Yes, Richard, I agree. And I know that Amnon put 2 of those on his system in North Carolina, and immediately his AC noise went away. But, you know, he also spent $150 on each one because apparently you need one per mic. But that, you know, that would be a good solution too, I guess. You know, if you know, spend $150 on a, I think that DBX may be the one that he was using. It was definitely a DBX. Whether it was a 166XL or not, I don't know. At one point, Amnon thought he was going to be able to tune in today, but I guess he didn't make it. DBX 166XL. That could be the one. So that's it for the studio tour, guys. As you can see, you know, a lot of trial and error, a lot of experimenting, a lot of learning, and a lot of fun. And fortunately, you know, I was in a position that I could buy and sell things, and, you know, I might wait to buy something until I sold something else, so that it's been a zero-sum game. This has been an experiment and a lot of fun, and you know, seems to be funding itself at this point, which is always good. So we're gonna tie this one up. I think don't have a guest yet for next week. Still working on that. But in 2 weeks, Sheldon Neal with Slice TV is going to come back on the show. You may remember Sheldon was with us on one of the shows in the early fall, and showed us some clips of some basketball games that he had done last year, and used the new VidBlaster Instant Replay 3 version on, which allowed for slow motion. And he is all excited. He's got all sorts of great things planned for the show. He's going to do some demos and bring us some more. So we'll be doing sports broadcasting in 2 weeks. And I see that Richard says that he was volunteering. So Richard, we definitely need to talk and see when to fit you best into the schedule. That's good. I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Those of you that tuned in live, if you're watching us on YouTube after the fact, we invite you to come join us live on Tuesdays at 3 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock London time. And if you want, you can follow us on Twitter too, because I do send out tweets. Try not to fill up your tweet box, but I do send up tweets in advance of the show talking about what the subject matter is. And it's at VidBlaster Guy. VidBlaster Guy. Know that. Just VidBlaster Guy is our Twitter handle, as it were. So, I'm Tom Sinclair. This has been That VidBlaster Guy. And it was a treat to be with you. Let me cue up. Oh, golly. Got to cue up the post-roll credits here. And Martin, I've been working on the post-roll credits. Still haven't gotten them dialed in yet. But that's it. So we'll see you guys next time.